Hi, it's Pastor Marty from the Afternoon Drive. Tucker, why did you do it? Why? We had such high hopes for you. Now that Fox News Barbie, otherwise known as Megyn Kelly, is out of the way and they brought a conservative to the 9 o'clock hour, Tucker, on your inaugural 9 o'clock relaunch of Making Faux Pas News, formerly known as Fox News, back to the conservative side of things, you give Glenn Beck, Glenn Crybaby Beck, Glenn, that sycophant, narcissistic buffoon, you give him an actual conservative national platform to try to weasel his way back in, to even say he's excited about a Donald Trump presidency. Really? Because just a week before Christmas, he was telling Samantha Bee, get ready for a dictatorship. Get ready to lose all of your rights. We need to join forces. He was talking about his people and liberal people. We need to join forces to stand against Donald Trump. And a week later, a couple weeks later, Tucker, you let him say, no, that's not what I meant. You didn't hold him to the task that he was out there like a lunatic, declaring that Ted Cruz is anointed by God to be your leader. Well, I had to do your work for you, Tucker, since you didn't bother to do it. Now, normally here on my YouTube channel, we give you video of moi. But today, I'm going to take you to the radio side of the Afternoon Drive, because this is what I had to do to correct Tucker Carlson in the interview that he didn't give, that he should have given.
Tucker Carlson got the gig from Megyn the pole dancer Kelly over at Faux Pas News, formerly known as Fox News. And, okay, I'm glad Megyn Kelly is gone. She was never really a journalist or really a commentator. She was eye candy. That's all she ever was. The fact that she admitted that she was sexually harassed by Roger Ailes ought to tell you. He saw her as what she was, eye candy, who could get old men at nursing homes to tune in at 9 o'clock in the evening. She proved that herself. She denigrated herself by going on the Howard Stern show, talking about the size of her own breasts, her husband's penis, and their sex lives. Because, that's what Dan Rather, Tom Brokaw, and all the news journalists that have ever wanted to really be taken seriously have done. They've gone on cheap talk shows and, talked about, their private, dirty lives. Okay, yeah. And then I forget, was it New Yorker or Vanity Fair, one of those, she posed in lingerie. Because, I couldn't go to bed at night without seeing, Roger Mudd in his boxers on the cover of a magazine. I mean, this is just ridiculous that she was ever given an ounce of credibility. And then once she got on the Trump thing, she milked that for everything she could get. And hawking her book every night on her program. Goodbye, good riddance. Tucker Carlson, I forget which network he started with. I could still see him in his big grin and his bow tie. I like Tucker Carlson. I think he is a genuine conservative. But last night he gave cover for Glenn Beck. Now, I've seen some stuff online. Oh, no, Tucker Carlson took it to Glenn Beck. No, he didn't. He allowed Glenn Beck to try to regain some credibility within conservative media. And Tuck, I got to tell you, you made me mad. So let's get into it.
Over the past year and a half, nobody argued more forcefully or more fervently against Donald Trump's presidential candidacy than multimedia veteran Glenn Beck. Beck went on the road in support of rival candidate Ted Cruz, whom he said was anointed by God to stop Trump. At one point, he predicted that 4 years of a Trump presidency would lead, quote, to civil war or worse. Well, his exhortations went unheeded, and a Trump presidency is 11 days away. So where's Glenn Beck on all of this now? Glenn Beck joins us tonight. Glenn, great to see you.
Good to see you, Tucker. First of all, let me say congratulations on your new show, and I'm honored that you would ask me to be on your first show. Let me just clarify a couple things. You bet. Never said he was anointed by God to be president of the United States. I do believe that people are called, all of us are. You're called for your job. I'm called for my job. All of us are called for a specific time. That doesn't mean that he's the only one that can do it. It doesn't mean any of that, and it certainly doesn't mean that God's going to make that happen. We have to all play our roles. So I appreciate what you said, but it's not exactly what it meant.
Well, I think I remember it pretty well. You'd said you'd been praying for and with Ted Cruz, and that you had heard that you believe that God had called him forward at this time. And so my
Yes.
question is really simple.
Just like,
and I'm not attacking you. I'm just wondering, because he didn't win and Trump did win, did it shake your faith? And what lessons, spiritual lessons, did you take from that?
No, none.
Because you're just as fraudulent in your faith as you are in your conservatism. Glenn Beck, Crybaby Beck, is nothing but a fraud. He is a showman. He is the P.T. Barnum of conservative media. He is absolutely pathetic and should never be given an ounce of credibility on any area. Not only does he wear disgustingly ugly sweaters on shows like Samantha Bee, but he sat there looking rather portly last night on Tucker Carlson. Let's go back, because again, you're in media. Everything you say is recorded, and of course he is a sycophant of himself, so his archives are just rife with this.
Before I walked out on stage, Ted and I got down on our knees and we prayed. He is a servant at heart. He is a man who was raised for these times. People don't believe that stuff anymore, but I do. If God raised George Washington and Ben Franklin and Thomas Jefferson and Thomas Paine, if he put that collection together, he is the Almighty. I think he could send us one guy.
What you have to understand, the burden, you believe the country is at the end, you believe that God is telling you, step up to the plate. You believe that you, just like Moses, may be slow in speech and not the perfect guy, but you know if you get in there, you can actually do something, and you've tried to stay loyal.
When you compare your guy to Moses, when you say he was called by God for a time such as this, yes, when God calls and God says now is the time, it's going to happen. It doesn't matter what the political outline is. See, some of us prophetically saw Donald Trump as the guy, and guess what? Our guy's in. So what does that do to your faith, Glenn? You fraud, you fake, you phony, and Tucker. Put your bow tie back on like a good little boy, because that is exactly what you allowed Glenn Beck to do, was to come onto your show on its inaugural launch time, taking over for Megyn Kelly, and you allowed him to paint the narrative. You didn't go after him.
So I think what I've learned from this election is perhaps I need to be a little more humble. Perhaps we need to be a little more kind to each other and listen to each other, or we're going to tear each other apart.
I think that's really wise advice, and that we could all heed, me included. I guess I'm asking you because you seem to frame this election in moral terms, almost from the beginning, that it wasn't just a contest between people who had differing views, but it really was a contest between the good and the not good, and the evil. And in your view, and I watched you on the road, I was with you for part of it, you really posited Ted Cruz as the good guy in this. And then when he lost, I think I heard you say that he was, or maybe concede, that he was in fact maybe disingenuous and smarmy, actually, is the word you used. Why did you change your view so much on Ted Cruz?
Wow.
How dare you, Tucker, actually ask him kind of a hard question. You're asking him to... Do you understand that Glenn Beck is a soulless, unprincipled charlatan milking conservative media for money, period? But no. Once Tucker had him on the ropes, he had to let him off and feign over him.
So I remember, one of the reasons I want to talk to you is I remember sitting in my office 8 or 9 years ago and watching you on television and thinking you were the single most talented anchor I had ever seen, and I know some sense of what it takes. You were hitting a hole-in-one every night. Just the difficulty level was awe-inspiring, and you were pulling it off.
Chances are, 'cause I wear a
yes, Glenn Beck, the high school dropout, on TV with blackboards, basically making the connection that anyone that had an idea different than his was obviously a covert Nazi here to take over the country. Yes. He certainly was talented, wasn't he? Crying and delivering soccer balls and free food to illegal aliens on the border. What a guy.
Are the accounts true, or are they just nasty and politically motivated, that your company, The Blaze, has had financial trouble?
Imploding.
Gosh, no.
People and split with your business partner, etc.
Yeah, we fired a lot of people because I changed directions of the company. I think we started when those rumors were going around. We had 245 employees. or 246. We now have 245, and I just left an office where we were talking about 2 other people that we're going to hire. So business has changed direction, and that's what we did. Was it a poorly run company? Yeah, it was a poorly run company. Is it now? No, I don't think so. We're fine.
Now I'm feeling fine.
Okay, so this is it. He's saying that we changed direction. So you're not conservative anymore. You've changed.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
And now you're trying to reinvent yourself as a middle of the roader because you're losing ratings-wise and revenue-wise. When your ratings drop, your revenue drops, and you're losing your conservative audience. You're changing. Although you say, no, I'm not. No, I'm not.
And I read people say, well, Glenn Beck is changing his views. Have your political views changed?
No. I'm a libertarian. I have always been about principles. When I started the 9/12 Project, it was about values and principles. I think this election became about winners and losers.
And you lost. And so because of it, you tried to tiptoe into liberal water, and we'll play that in just a moment with your little interview with Samantha Bee. And now all of a sudden, you're excited for Trump. Are you like off your Prozac or something?
Yeah.
What kind of president do you think Trump will make?
I don't know. I'm excited to see.
Because just a few days before Christmas, this was what Glenn Beck was really saying.
Welcome back to the show. Those of you who only read about me know that I'm an ultra-liberal harpy paid by Hillary to crap on everything decent in America. While those who actually watch the show are probably dismayed by how not true that is.
If you haven't heard, Glenn Beck is acting really weird. Weird like reaching out to the lamestream media to apologize for his previous weirdness. Weird like going so far as to agree to talk with the shrill, foul-mouthed host of a liberal bitch fest. Yes, that's you, lady. So in the holiday spirit of peace, love, and reconciliation, Glenn and I put on our Christmas sweaters and got to work on healing the nation.
My audience is going to think that I am crazy for sitting down with you.
My audience hates your guts.
Newsflash, Mr. Beck, you no longer have an audience.
My audience wants to kill me for normalizing a lunatic like yourself.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
But healing for my audience who's struggling right now to understand why I'm sitting and talking to you. Because I think that our future is going to require a broad coalition of nonpartisan decency.
Agree.
It's not just individual people against Donald Trump, it's all of us against Trumpism.
I agree.
Oh, so now the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Danger, Will Robinson, danger!
And so I actually think it's important to reach into places where we wouldn't normally reach.
I agree. I said yes to you because I believe, I watch you. I believe you actually don't want to do damage. As a guy who has done damage, I don't want to do any more damage. I know what I did. I helped divide. I'm willing to take that.
So much for conviction. So much for your deep-rooted commitment to conservatism.
What are you talking about?
My message to you is, please don't make the mistakes that I made.
There's a lot of things about me you don't know anything about. Things you wouldn't understand. Things you couldn't understand. Things you shouldn't understand.
And I think all of us are doing it. We're doing it on Facebook. We're doing it on Twitter. We tear each other apart and we don't see the human on the other side.
You're such a fraud.
My God, pull yourself together. Is this a question?
You are such a phony, and you are totally and completely full of it. This is a full frontal trans-political transition that we are now witnessing in Glenn Beck. And for the record, he's still a lunatic.
GD at Glenn Beck. Now you've done and disarmed me. And this is exactly what's so confusing if you're suspicious of Glenn Beck. He seems, tartar sauce, to be a deeply sincere and decent person. He was criticized harshly by many of his own fans when he spoke out against Trump. He supports various charities, like one that helps women rescued from ISIS, providing them with counseling through knitting circles led by therapists. He also drew fire from his own side when he took toys and clothing and $2 million of food to undocumented immigrants on the southern border.
And try to teach my audience, they're children. Yes, you can be against illegal immigration, but they're children and they're here and they're humans.
Much of Glenn's message has changed, but when I asked if he's hopeful or still a pessimist...
I'm not a pessimist, I'm a catastrophist. Have you watched me?
Yeah, I thought you might have changed that part.
No, that part remains right intact.
Okay.
And he had advice for me.
I hate to break it to you.
Uh-huh.
See, I've been watching you.
Right.
You've adopted a lot of my catastrophe kind of traits.
Oh, brother. Samantha, I don't know how to tell you this. You're my love child. This guy has absolutely no moral moorings of any kind.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
I'm a catastrophist.
You are.
In the mode of Glenn Beck?
Let me ask you this.
Sam B's having a Christmas crisis.
Do you believe there's a chance we fall into a dictatorship under Donald Trump?
God.
Do you believe there's a chance we lose our freedom of speech and press under this president?
Glenn Beck is going to make me cry.
I'm sorry. Somebody has to say it.
Oh, so Trump is going to be a dictator and we are in for a catastrophe. You're as unhinged and looned out now as somebody else we used to have on this show, Reverend James David Manning, who now refers to Donald Trump as Tribulation Trump. He gonna usher into tribulation. Gonna bring in a tribulation. Yeah, okay.
Colonel Rat Channel, this is a Class 1 emergency. All civilian traffic is barred from streets and highways. Stay in your homes. Stay in your homes. Those found without specific military orders are subject to summary execution.
Glenn Beck and I were becoming allies?
I'm reaching out. No, I was reaching out to you.
Do it again.
No, I'm not your trained monkey.
I'm going to pull the football away, Glenn.
You're Lucy.
Glenn Beck, do it.
Pastor Marty, Afternoon Drive. Thanks for checking me out here on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel, share it, spread it, get the word out. Marty Bramer, Afternoon Drive.